What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video here today. We've got something really very interesting, something that I personally came up with. Of course, we all get our inspiration from somewhere, so let's go over some of the things that have been happening in Modern. So lately there's this big deck that has made its way into the online scene on Magic Online, obviously. And it revolves around two cards, basically As Foretold and Living End. So let's go over the first card here, right? So As Foretold, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold, and once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for the spell you cast, with converted mana cost X or less, or X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. So basically, this allows you to cast 0 mana cards that normally would not be, you normally can't cast. And there are quite a few of those in Modern, two which are very, very powerful. The first one being Living End, which you can exile all creature cards from all graveyards. Then you sacrifice all creatures in play, and then you put all the creatures that were in the graveyard that then got exiled into play. So basically, you can put your entire graveyard into play while kind of sweeping your opponent's board completely. Not only do we have Living End that's you can abuse with As Foretold, you also have Ancestral Vision, which you can turn into Ancestral Recall, in a sense. The target player draws 3 cards for 0 mana if you have As Foretold in play. Of course, it's still a sorcery, though, so it's not quite Ancestral Recall. So the deck mainly revolves around this interaction, and then you fill the yard with cards like Striped Riverwinder, which cycles for 1 blue, digs you towards As Foretold or Living End or whatever you want, and puts it into your graveyard. You do the same thing with Curator of Mysteries, you cycle, and then you also have Street Wraith. Now that version has like 2 or 3 more cyclers in the deck. I'm going a little bit less on the cycler plan, and as you can probably see, I'm going a bit more on the combo plan. So generally the deck is mono blue or sometimes blue black. We're going blue red. What red allows us to do is add cards that improve consistency in the form of Faithless Looting. We get to play Cathartic Reunion. We also get to play Blood Moon, which is a very hateful card. So you're kind of attacking your opponent from all these different angles. And so you can, fill up your yard, but then all of a sudden you slam a Blood Moon, and then you have all the time in the world to set up. What we're also doing is jamming the Kiki Exarch Pestermite combo in here. And the way we can do that is basically we play Deceiver Exarch and Pestermite. We can put them into the graveyard using multiple different ways. Sometimes they just die naturally while you're playing the game. You flash, block, something like that. And then, if you're able to mill a Kiki-Jiki into your graveyard as well, using Faithless Looting or Cathartic Reunion, what As Foretold into Living End allows you to do is basically get all those creatures back. So it doesn't matter that they don't get haste, because Deceiver, Exarch, and Pestermite, they don't need haste to work with Kiki-Jiki, right? Because Kiki-Jiki is the one that has haste. He creates a token that's a copy of target non-legendary creature. In this case, it'll be either Deceiver, Exarch, or Pestermite. And then that copy re-enters the battlefield and untaps Kiki, and you do this an infinite amount of times, right? So essentially that's the game plan, but what's really nice is that we can also just play a fair game. We can play Ancestral Visions, we can play Remands, we can dig through our deck, we can shut our opponent's mana base with Blood Moon, we can literally just cast 4/4 flyers or 5/5 hexproof creatures. We can also just hardcast Kiki-Jiki. So there's a lot of angles that this deck attacks from. What I've noticed, though, is it's a little susceptible to graveyard hate. So the way that we kind of a little bit address that, but I guess not too much, what we do is play a couple Dispels in the sideboard. This helps against control matchups or surgical extractions and things like that. We play a Cryptic Command, catch all to bounce something, counter something, whatever you want it to do. Then we also play Engineer Explosive. Engineer Explosive is probably the most important hate card in the sideboard, I would say. Even more so over these graveyard hates. The reason I'm playing Engineer Explosives is because Rest in Peace, Relic of Progenitus, all these cards completely shut down our main strategy, and that's filling up the yard and doing a big Living End. So we need to reliably find Engineer Explosives. I was really considering playing 3, but I'm just going to stick for 2 and hope that works out for us. Then what red gives us access to is Bolt and Bifrost. So Storm is still a huge deck. Counters Company is still obviously a big deck. So having this cheap interaction with them, I would say, is really important. because you can't just always just combo them. Bi-Force helps against the Affinity matchup because Affinity is one of the decks that arguably is pretty can be much faster than you. They're much more consistently faster than you are consistently explosive. So in terms of our combo. Aside from that, we have a bit of grindy tools. We have Search for Azcanta. What's nice about Fairy Macabre over Surgical, I did a split because while Surgical is more hateful on one specific card, Fairy Macabre can exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards, and it's an ability, so you don't even have to really put it on the stack in the form of a spell, so it can't be countered, and it can remove like creatures from the graveyard on your opponent's side, so that way when you Living End, they don't get all those creatures back. So that is basically the gist of the deck. I'm really excited to try it. I played it with it a little bit. I beat up Blue-White Control like 2 or 3 times. It was pretty sweet. Mostly on the back of Blood Moon, though. I would say like Blood Moon is probably the card that, if anything, I'd want to go to a 3rd copy. But for now, we're just going to stick for 2. Maybe a 3rd one in the sideboard. But I think Game 1 Blood Moons have a lot of impact. I actually side them out 1 to 2 copies in Game 2. Especially if my opponent sees it Game 1. Anyways, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. You'll get to see it in action. If you didn't quite understand the interactions, you get to see it in action very, very soon. And hopefully we'll have some good games. So stick around for that, and I'll see you guys soon. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first match here with Blue-Red Living Kiki, as I guess I like to call it. So we won the die roll. So yeah, let's go ahead and play first. Let's try to be as fast as we can here. I would say Cyclers plus Street Wraith plus Blood Moon is a pretty good hand. So I'll go ahead and keep. Probably lead on this Polluted Delta. Even if I did find like Faithless Looting off of this cycle, I'm not sure that I would want to cast it over cycling this Striped River Winder. Our opponent is mulling down to 6. Right. So let's just go ahead and lead on Delta here. Probably fetch up a basic island. Obviously, we want to be able to cast our blue spells. Being on the play with Blood Moon definitely helps, but we'll see what we're up against. It could easily just get ripped out of our hand from like a discard spell. Looks like Scalding Tarn. Our opponent can be on a number of different decks now, so let's not make any assumptions, and let's go ahead and cycle. Remand is quite a good draw. Let's go ahead and just cycle now. Kiki-Jiki, huh? Double Kiki-Jiki. So not great. So the reason I didn't play Cascade Bluffs there is because that probably reveals really easily that we're playing Kiki. Most decks don't run Cascade Bluffs unless they need to cast Kiki. So Steam Vents, obviously a blue-red deck. If they're on something like Storm, Blood Moon's not even going to be very good. I will probably remand a spell here if my opponent casts one. Mountain into Steam Vents could be a lot of different things. They might be Storm, they might be like Kiki or Through the Breach or something like that. So this is not a bad draw. This list gives us access to another blue mana. I think I'll just run out Blood Moon though. If we get remanded, like, that's fine. Yeah. So this could be like a weird mirror match here. Sure. So they have access to both game 1. We don't. So I would say they probably have the advantage here. It would be really funny if they remanded my Blood Moon and then cast their own Blood Moon. They're probably not doing that though. That does seem unlikely to me. If we do draw another, ooh, sleight of hand. So this is Storm. Probably. Which means that a turn 5 combo could be good enough if we can disrupt them enough. If they get a Storm creature into play right now, that could be really scary. Faithless Looting, huh? So we're still missing like 2 pieces of the combo here, so I'm not sure we want to tap out for that. Faithless Looting does mean that we might get to hit on our 5th land, but then what are we discarding? So maybe we want to go... This is tough. We could just keep up Remand and Faithless Looting. How good is Blood Moon actually going to be in this matchup? Pretty bad, so I'm not going to focus too much on resolving a Blood Moon here. Deceiver Exarch dodges Bolt, but then Kiki gets hit by Bolt, so it doesn't matter all that much. We didn't find our land, so I think we could discard an excess Kiki here. I think that's fine. And here we can just hold up Remand. Alternatively, I could have discarded one of the combo pieces here, but we can actually cast those, and they can actually put a clock on our opponent, worst case scenario. So looks like we obviously couldn't lock our opponent out of blue mana. They had the fetch, and they countered the Blood Moon. So looks like our opponent survives yet another turn. Goblin Electromancer, I'm going to let that resolve. Probably counter the first ritual if they cast one. No ritual. God, I really have to shave. My mustache keeps tickling my nose here. Yeah, we want to get the fastest clock online, right? Although this kind of went all in. If we didn't counter it here, then they can just counter our spell. Yeah, I didn't quite consider that, because they can, with one blue mana, go Remand here. Because if this enters play, it's obviously tapping the Steam Vents here. So they kind of have to decide, okay, what am I doing for the next turn right now? So we're going to go ahead and try and tap this down. We could have played Deceiver Exarch, actually. That means if they are running in any main deck Lightning Bolts, that they can't Lightning Bolt Pestermite in response. That might have been the better play. I'm not doing things so smoothly here. Hopefully we don't get punished. But we very well might if our opponent is taking time to think here. Yes, alright, we tap Steam Vents, and let's hope that we hit land number 5 here, untapped. And that's a land. Let's go ahead and add double red here. Kiki-Jiki. And that should be game. Hopefully our opponent doesn't make us play it out. Hopefully they don't have something like Gut Shot or like Simian Spirit Guide. Yeah, Headroom with Grape Shot was instant. Guess they're learning the deck still. Yeah. So against Storm, like I mentioned before, I like to bring in these Lightning Bolts, Grave Hate, Dispels. That's actually a lot of stuff. What do we cut against them? We can probably cut some number of Living Ends. We don't need that many. We can probably cut Blood Moon. I don't like Cathartic Reunion in the face of opposing remands. So I definitely want the Grave Hate. I think if anything comes in, it's the Grave Hate. The question is, how many Living Ends do we want? This is actually tough. I'm not quite sure how to sideboard against Storm. In general, sideboarding with this deck seems kind of tough. Tapping out in general for like As Foretold seems a bit gutsy. This is the kind of matchup where it might be better to kind of play the more controlling role. Maybe. But hopefully we're not diluting our deck too much here. Yeah, I think this should be fine. Again, one Living End should do the trick. Obviously, we still have to find it, but I don't want to, like, this is not the matchup where, like, I need to Living End on turn 3 to win. So, and Lightning Bolt just helps us survive against Storm creatures. So, I like this. I like being a little bit more controlling. Maybe I should be cutting Street Wraiths, but those are free cycles, so I feel like I shouldn't be. was probably supposed to cut some number of Ancestral Vision. I didn't think about that, huh? I don't know why I didn't think about that. I'd say this is still a keep, though. Not very hateful hand, but we do have turn 3 Ancestral Recall, so plus a cycle on turn 1. So this is not the end of the world, plus a combo piece, so, you know, again, not the end of the world here. Let's see how our opponent scries. Had Remand in hand. Sure. I mean, they probably should have remanded the Pestermite. But maybe they just didn't see that interaction. So they go bottom top. So they'll be drawing a card that they want to draw. Here, let's just go ahead and shock. I'm not going to suspend Ancestral Vision on turn 1. But hopefully we have enough time here to find some things we can use to interact with our opponent. Looks like our opponent might be shocking here. I would like to find maybe one of my lightning bolts, and maybe that's why I should have had 3, but so far no creature is a good sign from our opponent's side of the board. We have time to draw into stuff. Tolaria West, not a ooh, Fairy Macabre, that's pretty good. I'm going to enjoy that. I think there's no it wouldn't hurt just representing counter magic here. It may make our opponent play around something that you know, that's obviously not there. What's nice about Tolaria West is it lets us fetch up a living end if we need it, which is really nice. Of course, our graveyard is pretty tiny right now, so. Looks like our opponent's considering tapping out for an Electromancer. Electromancer is in. There's a lot of things my opponent can do that I cannot stop at this point. Remand. That is an interesting draw. I don't know if there's a lot of benefit to playing As Foretold into Ancestral Vision right now. Again, I probably should have trimmed some number of these. If I go As Foretold, Ancestral Vision, 7, 6 cards in hand, and 5, then I'd have to discard 1. On their turn, they can start going off. We can try to exile one of their Past in Flames. But again, that just seems a bit risky, so maybe I should have just suspended Ancestral Vision last turn, considering it's going to be really hard for me to find time to tap out for As Foretold. But I think, again, we should be more on the controlling role this game here. Our opponent is tapping out, or at least fetching in their main phase, which means they could just be playing like a Serum Vision, though. Get in there 2 damage here. Again, would be nice to find a Lightning Bolt in this position. Alright, so far nothing from my opponent. Deceiver Exarch. I'm actually just going to play the Tolaria West here. Because if our opponent just keeps playing conservatively, we can go Gifts Ungiven. They probably have Remand backup. It feels like that's what they've been representing for quite a while now. I'm going to let that resolve instead of remanding it here. If they end up finding a way to get another Past in Flames in their yard, then I'm going to be happy that I kept up Remand, I think. Maybe just strain their mana a little bit more. And then if they don't kill me because of this Graveyard Exile, then I can maybe Deceiver Exarch. So, 2 cards into the graveyard. So it's tough because I don't really want to give him the rituals, but I don't want to give him a draw either. So I'm gonna go ahead and exile these two, and then Fairy Macabre, Past in Flames, and Gifts Ungiven still at end step here. They could have the Phyrexian card that puts a card from their graveyard on the top of their library. Anything is possible. But hopefully this will delay them by like one turn, and maybe that one turn will be enough to combo. If they get like greedy and do something funny this turn. Although it looks like they just might be one turn ahead of us in terms of both tempo and card and kill potential. So it's tough. But again, if they just tap out here or just pass, we can just also just Deceiver Exarch here. Probably get remanded. Yep, makes a lot of sense. Question is, do they go Gifts Ungiven here? So no Gifts Ungiven. Interesting. Do we want to keep presenting the combo? I think we do. I think we want to present the combo and keep up Remand. It's definitely not easy, though. So we know they have two rituals in hand, right? We know Desperate, Pyretic, so they have mana if they want it. Question is, do they have something to do with that mana? Excuse me. No Gifts Ungiven on end step there makes me feel like, all right, sleight of hand, sure. Again, if they have mana, they can make a lot of it. The question is, do I want to flash in Deceiver Exarch to block? Probably not, because that exposes it to Grape Shot. Of course, if my opponent goes Ritual, then like Grape Shots me and like sends some stuff at Deceiver Exarch. I feel like that's a win in my book, but I think I'd rather just go for a potential win here. We've gone through one remand. They can play up to 4 usually. So it looks like they're gonna try to go off right now, and they're gonna splice. Yep. Okay. It's a lot of mana. They could do it from here, but I will of course try to hit their key spells. So they've used one of these rituals. They got one back into their hand. They have 2 more. All right, that's Pyretic Ritual down. It's Ritual down. So they have 3 unknowns in hand. Be nice to have their storm count, you know. But that's what, 3 spells so far. I guess Sleight of Hand makes it 4 spells. My remand, just gonna go for Grape Shot. They could Grape Shot remand their own Grape Shot. Or they could go for like Empty the Warrens here. Or they could just go Past in Flames right now. Storm count would be 6. If I remand this, it means they... Yeah, this is... I think I have to remand this. Alright, need to find one more remand here. Yep, then our opponent gets us here, I think. Yeah, now we didn't even leave up like Exarch in case they mess up, but there's no reason they should mess up here. Yeah, and then they just Grape Shot us. Alright, we're dead. We're dead. No need to prolong this. Let's sideboard a little better, because we had a lot of dead cards. Probably don't need all these Ancestral Visions. Probably want more Dispels. And and lightning bolt over that. Arguably, we could bring in engineer explosives. On 2, it's okay, but it also hits empty the warrens. Okay. I think this is fine. This should be fine. Again, we're trimming here to be a little more interactive. So we still have 10 cyclers, still have 3 as foretold, still some as foretold payoff. It's tough. It's tough making the cuts. Maybe I could even cut one more. No, I can't. All right. On the play, surgical and 2 cyclers, or 3 cyclers. Actually, yeah, this is a keep. This is absolutely a keep. Surgical is very useful here, because hitting Past in Flames is going to be useful. So our opponent also kept on 7. Serum Visions. Let's see how they scry. Go top, top. That is scary. That is always scary. Excuse me. Alright, we found another land, so we're on track here. Fairy Macabre, this is great. We're lining up here for a turn 3 as foretold into a pretty good clock backed up by solid disruptive elements here in the form of Surgical and Fairy Macabre. Obviously, they could have Remand, but if they like tap out for a Storm creature here, I think I'm going to be really happy. Alright. No Storm creature, that's fine. Sleight of hand. So now they get to keep both of the cards that they saw on top. Another sleight of hand, sure. Obviously, I don't have any information about their hand, really, so I'd rather not just blindly Surgical. I probably want to save Surgical for a Past in Flames. Let's cycle here. Land. Great. This is perfect. And now we do the thing where we do a lot of fun stuff. And bam, that's a clock. So 5, 10, 14, 17, bolt is 20. Yeah, that would be my reaction too. But our opponent looks to be dead on board. So the fact that we don't have a second red means Remand does actually get us here. Actually no, they're dead on board, but they can block. But then if they block, they can't play Remand, so it's really not the end of the world here. Maybe the Living End plan is much better than the Ancestral Vision plan in this matchup. They might try to go off here. Again, we do have a little bit of interaction that might go a long way here. Manamorphose, so that generates mana and draws a card. That's very good for them here. Again, also very good. Alright, so they're getting double blue mana. The question is Surgical Fairy Macabre enough to deal with Storm? I would say that's pretty tough. Alright, so they are going to try to go off here. Storm count is... Yeah, I mean, we're turn 3, they're turn 3. Gifts Ungiven. I guess that is fine. So they probably get a Grape Shot and a Past in Flames here at least. No Grape Shot. That means they have Grape Shot in hand already. Which means we do need to worry about the Storm counter. Alright, so I think we give them Manamorphose into their hand. And then we can Surgical it away, and then all they're left with is, because they're going to cast Past in Flames from the graveyard immediately, right? Oh, I could... Alright, let's think here. We have 2 pieces of hate. How do they interact with our opponent deck? So if we give them Past in Flames... So I think if we give them Past in Flames, they can obviously cast it, but then they can also cast a Ritual first. If we bin Past in Flames, that means they have to cast a Ritual first, which means we can Surgical it in response. So I think binning Past in Flames and Manamorphose. Because then they need to cast a Ritual if they want to flashback Past in Flames, or else they just use up all the mana. And then we can get them here. Of course, if they have Dispel, then this whole thing is pretty bad. But then we can Fairy Macabre, Past in Flames, and Gifts. So we do have to watch the Storm count here. Because again, if they just have natural Grape Shot, we're at 12 life. So that is what's nice about Fairy Macabre. It doesn't use the stack. Remand is pretty good here. So if we let Remand resolve, I think here... Wow, I didn't even discard or cycle a card. So I get to exile Past in Flames and Gifts Ungiven without using the stack before my opponent draws a card. I guess we can top that because we're probably winning next turn. If we get a next turn. What did they remand here? They did remand my Surgical, right? So they have one more Ritual in hand that we know about. Yeah, that's pretty tough. But they can still Natural Storm us here. Just yeah, they even get to loot a little bit here. So it's definitely an uphill battle. But again, if they don't have Grape Shot yet, then we might be in an okay spot. Okay. They're at 5 mana, so hopefully they don't have another Manamorphose. So they can't generate blue mana. So they can go Ritual and then Grape Shot, and that's 11? I mean, yeah, our opponent had a pretty nice turn 3, but we're doing our best here. Again, going down to 10 life would be suicide. So they probably have Grape Shot. I don't think we know about any card in their hand at this point. Obviously, I'm not gonna just Alright, our opponent passes, no mana floating. Alright. I think we got there, boys. And girls. So if we attack 5, they'll block. So yeah, if they block, so that's 5, 8, 12. That's still lethal. Right? So it's 5, 8, 12 plus. Yeah, I think that's still lethal even if they block. All right, math is fine. Let's just go ahead and cast it with mana. And bolt them. All right, so that was pretty intense game against Storm. I mean, both of us are doing really unfair stuff, but looks like we got there on turn 4 kill. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. That was the first match here against Blue Red Storm, and I'll see you guys for match 2.